Well, I know he was dead, and before he was dead, he was hot. This comic may slowly be transforming into Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane. More time than one may potentially expect was dedicated to how hot Jack is. Would I read She-Hulk's boyfriend, Jack of Hearts? Probably. Greetings, comic lovers, and welcome back to Casually Comics, the channel where we chat all things comics, reviews comics new and old, history to anecdotes, really wherever our whims take us. She-Hulk issue 3. We're still talking about it because I feel like it. She-Hulk has been returned to a more classic framework in the series helmed by Rowell. She's doing lawyer stuff again and loving being the big green She-Hulk. So what's happened so far? It's gonna be quick. Jen got a job working for Mallory Book. She's staying at the Wasp, Janet Van Dyne's apartment, yes, the one from the 80s, and then Jack of Hearts appeared, and issue 2 spent most of its pages detailing just who on earth is Jack of Hearts. It's been a very slice of life She-Hulk experience so far. And confusion continues to swirl time of recording as to whether or not it's a miniseries or an ongoing. It was labeled both ways in different places. Granted, the miniseries label came from Comixology in the lead up to it being finally merged with Amazon and becoming essentially Kindle. Kindle, I can't call it 2.0 because it was a devolution. But before that, the site wasn't the best maintained, so some of the things there take with a grain of salt. So very time of recording. The pacing of this series certainly feels like an ongoing, because this is an issue where action-wise, not a lot to report, but the emotions, the feelings. Jack used flirt and it was super effective. The shipping goggles are still intact. Not that one needs them, because this story is very much playing with your typical romance tropes, or seems to be. It may be a romantic layup. The cover of this one is once more by Jen Bartel. Jack sheepishly holding an umbrella for She-Hulk, looking like he's experiencing the internet's feelings for Lady Dimitrescu. This cover has romance comic energy, but not to the level of Bartel's not safe for work art, which is a thing if you want to seek it out, and I hope you like Tifa and think she's waifu for lifeu. Interior art is once more by Roge Antonio, with Rico Renzi on colors and Joe Caramagna on letters. We pick up where we left off. Jen had gone to work and she'd remembered to bring her own bagel, but Mallory is on her to bring in some clients. She needs to earn her little tiny closet office space. She reunites with awesome Andy, with whom she had worked previously, so for longtime She-Hulk fans, that's a nice moment. And for those who are new, they may be intrigued by just why there's a giant android who seems to have a block for a head. She-Hulk is not having the best luck drumming up some clients. She's making the rounds, but she's been gone for a while and she feels that her reputation may have taken a bit of a hit. But then she's called by the Thing from the Fantastic Four. Jen famously spent some time on the Fantastic Four during the period helmed by Byrne, who had a very strong fondness for her character and is considered by many to have had a key hand in helping to define her personality. The narration caption calls him one Fantastic Fourth. I chuckled. The law's the law. You have to have a leash. Jen caves eventually and says yeah, she'll meet him, but just for some advice. But then she gets a call from Pietro, Quicksilver. Oh, the shenanigans. A speeding ticket? I chuckled internally. It was one of those clever I see what you did there moments, but not a guffaw. Jen is living her best sitcom life in this run. She gets home and Jack is still asleep on the couch, and there's this moment as she watches him sleep where you can tell she thinks he's handsome. You could have put a thought balloon there. Just edge on closer to being Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane. Come on, you know you want to. Handsome. Instead, she nudges him with the pizza box to avoid those feelings. Jack, despite having been around for a while before he died, is in the out of this world category in the story in terms of characters, in that he's experiencing things for the first time. Like getting to eat and drink and sleep, etc., since his powers negated him having to do those things since he just absorbed radiation for energy. You're teasing me. Yeah. I do that. Jack is in full angsty boy mode. Just all, you're not safe around me. I'm the person who drained you last time. We talked about that last issue, him draining Jen and also his resurrections and deaths. Card and link if you missed it. I literally am a bad memory. Look at Jen's face. You can feel her contemplating whether she wants to live out the I can fix him trope. They talk more about his resurrection and Jack assumes for a moment that perhaps there was something more. But it's not like we were ever close. I've thought that perhaps. No, never mind. My last thought when I flew into space was that I was so sorry. So maybe I woke up thinking I should tell you. Scroll! Clone! Life model decoy! Jack died telling his father to deal him into heaven. I'm sad that I know that off the top of my head. Gonna be on my deathbed. What was Jack of Hearts thinking when he died? Important life fact. It's not clear whether this is meant to be a clue to readers more deeply based in Marvel canon, a clue that something is very wrong with Jack, or if it's an oversight. Time will tell. They decided to work out what Jack knows about himself pre-resurrection, which means it's time for even more info on Jack. Last issue they focused on the lead up to his death. Now they're gonna focus on his origins. It's time to talk about Zero Fluid. Not as much as I'd like though. What's your deal anyway? My deal? You know, your deal. Radioactive spider bite, radioactive blood transfusion. Wow, they must really not have been close. You spend more than 5 minutes in a room with a superhero, they're telling you their origin. My mother was an alien from a planet called Contraxia. My father was developing a new form of energy called Zero Fluid. I fell in a vat of it on the day he was murdered. Yes, he did, in the deadly hands of Kung Fu. Jack went hard. He murdered the people who killed his father pretty quickly, and then decided that he did not have a taste for vengeance. I guess avenged? Murdered? Avenged? You decide. Also, extremely Extreme cliff notes, way to skip over the time that he went to his mom's planet and reignited their sun. Like a heroic Hal Jordan. Hal reignited the sun once, but he was evil at the time. He was parallax, but I guess that redeemed him. Reigniting the Sun Redemption Squad. There's a line during this that I spent some time on. It's after She-Hulk calls him out for sounding like he's talking about his life like he was reading it out of a book or perhaps on Wikipedia. In a way I am. Everything I know about myself, something somebody else told me. Tony Stark, S.H.I.E.L.D., the Contraxian government. This sounds good and melodramatic and angstily bitter, but it's not clear exactly how much it tracks with Jack's actual history, in full that is. It paints a bit of a different picture than how those issues read at the time, while simultaneously not being such a radical statement that it doesn't blend. It feels at points like Jack is very much being reworked and updated, which he is, if this is the real Jack. But at points it just feels more or less natural than others. Though of course if one doesn't know who Jack is, they just have to take this comic's word for it. He then starts Operation Soft Boy on Jen, although who are we kidding? He started that the instant he collapsed on her floor. I've never met someone so sure of herself and her place in the world. You are the literal poster girl for self-love and awareness. Cut! Moment ruined. Turn off the smooth jazz. We don't want it. This line is a very mileage varying one. For some, it will seem like a nice affirmation of Jen's self-worth, but it doesn't entirely match the tone of how Jack himself has been speaking even in these couple of issues. It's a moment that potentially feels very much to have come from current time of recording interests and buzzwords. It feels like something of the reader's world and not necessarily of the comics world, and so it has the potential to stand out. And it's also a bit much. He was already laying it on pretty thick. There's liquid honey and then there's solid honey. The previous statement felt a bit more genuine given the conversation they were having was about knowing oneself, while this one, while still in the general vein, feels more like the comic needed to emotionally validate She-Hulk and who she is rather than just letting her thoughts and actions do it. Or her words too. We don't have thought balloons. I'm really missing them this issue. There could be some great thought balloons of them both just thinking about each other. Just embrace it. Embrace the cheesy romance. Do it. Do it for me. Oh, also he's not misusing literally. They're talking about a magazine cover she was on. Jack hasn't hit full online speech patterns yet. Jen's response, however, keeps this disconnect very brief, because she takes it very seriously. Maybe I was once, but trust me, I know what it's like to perpetually be a pawn in someone else's game. If this is foreshadowing, and that's exactly what's going on here with Jack, I'll be sad. Then they joke about his costume. Jack's costume falls into this realm while many fans are fond of it or even love it, and even some writers such as Kurt Busiek love it too, who stated, I first ran into Jack in The Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, an issue drawn by Gil Kane and Rico Rowell. That great overcomplicated costume and the energy that Gil put into the storyline hooked me, and I've been a fan ever since. And he still is. Overcomplicated is a good word for it. It's not one that all artists love to draw for that very reason, especially under a deadline. Side note, when I was looking for Jack quotes, I stumbled upon this article and I just had to share the title with you. It's so harsh. Marvel's intergalactic loser has returned. It's time to pay him some respect. Just why? What did Jack do to you? How could you try and rage bait with Jack of Hearts of all people? As is the last par for the course, the article's tone does not match that title. It's instead actually a pretty decent write-up about how Jack got to where he is. The panel in this issue where they're talking about his costume, some of the placement of the word balloons makes it a little awkward at points, but it boils down to Jen likes the costume. I know how to stay alive. I have to trust someone. May as well be me. If I had to trust someone, I'd choose you too. Okay, turn the jazz back on. After much more banter, it finally dawns on them that perhaps they should test Jack's powers. He's surprisingly stunned by the fact that they're not working. Even though he's not draining Jen, which is something he used to do passively, just absorbing her radiation, he wasn't even aware he was doing it for some time. And also, he's been able to eat or drink for the first time in a long time sliding timescale time. Jennifer, something's wrong with my power. It feels out of reach. My hair is falling into my eyes, increasing your need to fix me. Fix me, Jen. Something's very wrong with me. Jen says he's looking better than when she last saw him, but the editorial box then mentions something that seemed to have been ignored before, the zombie Jack resurrection. This assembled one where Wanda brought him back as, well, a zombie on the Avengers lawn, and he blew up, seemingly killing Scott Lang. Well, he did and then he didn't. Part of me wonders if this box is there in response to fans who are wondering if that part of canon had been forgotten or not. Because if Jen does remember that, then why not tell him? What good is keeping that from him if the goal is to try to help him sort out all his memories and figure out what happened to him? You can eat pizza and tell him about the glory of blowing up Scott Lang. Jack doesn't want to leave or seek any help or get a doctor though. He doesn't trust Tony, he doesn't trust S.H.I.E.L.D., he doesn't trust anybody. Which is something that perhaps could have been better established, so there's more of a sense of him really needing to stay with her. Or perhaps instead of a vague, all I could remember was you, perhaps what he could have remembered was her being kind to him even though they weren't close. Because his relationship with the rest of the Avengers pre-death was pretty bad, with some of them abysmal. This moment was pretty serious. Let's have some levity again, shall we? Jack's eaten, he's drank, he's slept, There's only one culture shock experience left, or one of the big ones anyway. He needs to go to the bathroom. Yes, we're gonna focus on that. He also needs to take off his costume, which he previously couldn't because it contained his energy. And suddenly, as soon as Jen starts talking about it, he realizes he needs to go to the bathroom. But does he remember how? I'll take questions that many people didn't want answered or to think about for 100. Also, really, he plowed through all that food in issue 2, and then they mentioned that he had even more in this issue, and the drinking and everything, and this is the first time that he's felt the need to go to the bathroom? Suspension of disbelief shattered. She-Hulk leaves him to it, and also to shower so he can get his hair wet, and then she'll definitely need to fix him. And she calls Hellcat, Patsy Walker, to try and get some info on Jack. She calls Patsy because they're friends, and less so because Patsy has any kind of inside knowledge on Jack, which she really doesn't, aside from how thirsty she was for him apparently. Well, I know he was dead, and before he was dead, he was hot. In a kind of mopey, misdirected way, like he needed someone with a firm hand to point all that power in the right direction. Know what I mean? 3 things. Yes, I know what you mean. You can't shock me with your lightly veiled attempts at vulgarity. 2, the man is dead as far as she knows. 3, in a later panel it shows that Tony, her fiance, or at the very least her boyfriend, yes, Tony Stark, is in the room with her. He's just wearing headphones. I sure hope those are noise canceling. I liked his costume. I liked his little heart eye. I don't know. Jack of Hearts, he like showed up from space every once in a while and was more powerful than almost everyone. And you'd think that would make him important, but not really, right? I know I'm best for hurting you. I'm reading 50 Shades of Hulk, aren't I? Even in universe, it feels like he should be better remembered for exploding on the Avengers lawn. And for Wanda using him against everyone. There we go. And they talk about her and Tony. We don't have to talk about it. I know you don't approve. Jen doesn't approve. I don't approve. Although I'd approve much more if she was written the way she was here in comparison to how she's written in Iron Man. Let me take you on a brief journey. You need to experience some of it for yourself. Note there is some context to all these lines, but they don't make it that much better. Are you kidding me with this? Tony, it's not enough for you to completely ruin lives with your grand ideas and unlimited power. You need plastic mannequins of your besties kissing your ass as you do it. Here's one from when he nearly died, saving a bunch of people. Patsy, my chop's already busted. Serious question. Have you ever had to look past your own privilege? You mean you've given yourself more power than you already had? You enjoy more legal leeway than most people on Earth, and you answer to absolutely no one? Well, when you put it like that, it sounds like you're another white guy with a god complex. But what if I died doing something heroic? So that's what you've been trying to spectacularly kill yourself recently? To reduce all the moral complexities of your storied reputation to one commemorative memorial statue in Central Park? You know, I really like being your new tough love buddy. Here comes the bride. Run, Tony. Blink twice if you need help. Let's keep the no marriage streak alive just for this one. I get what they're trying to do, but it's rough. And a story for another time. Back to Jack and Jen. It is nice to see the continuity between these 2 series, though. Makes it feel connected. Jack figured out the toilet and the shower, and we end on him wearing for the first time in a long time civilian clothes. And Jen found us one with a giant heart on it. Cute. And he's giving strong Star Trek TOS vibes now that you can see more of his body. And that was issue 3. Thoughts, feelings, comments, questions, concerns? This story is very much settled into the type of tone that it's going to have, or seemingly will. And for some that will land, and for others not. Some feel at the comic's price point not enough is happening, while others happy with the genre and tone are feeling satisfied. However, even among those who are liking slice of life Jen finally having a respite and some more lighthearted times, the pacing may still feel slow. It depends upon how one likes their world building, but also upon how long this series will ultimately run for. The ratio of Jack to Jen may also feel off for some, while others may appreciate so much time being allotted to making one care about any potential developments between the 2. And for some fans, there's a lot of catching up needed for Jack of Hearts. It is also playing or skirting the line of the very cliched fix him trope, so some will enjoy that and others won't. It's amusing the heck out of me. There are some questions raised that aren't fully addressed, and since the comic's tone at this point is not urgent, they may weigh more or less on the minds of certain readers. Such as, why hasn't Jen told anybody yet? Jack's reticence has been made a bit more clear, but not Jen's so much. Moments like this could benefit from a nicely placed thought bubble. It could be super effective. Something perhaps about how nice it is to have someone around who isn't aware of all the things she's gone through recently, so she can just be herself and not have to talk about it if she doesn't want to. Maybe even having a selfish happiness about having this little secret, or having this nice person to come home and talk to. Or play into their issues with Iron Man and S.H.I.E.L.D. because they've both been wronged by both, so there is common ground there. But in general, some things that it seems like the characters should potentially be more concerned about, they just aren't. Like Jack and his powers. And the question becomes, is that the memory loss? Is it not Jack? Or are those type of concerns being pushed aside to play in domestic AU tropes? Each genre has its own tropes which require their own unique set of suspension of disbelief. If one is liking it, this is a fun light read with cute character moments and a strong feeling that Jen is really interconnected and in integral to the Marvel Universe. A story creating a strong emotional base, so hopefully when things do kick off, the reader will be much more invested. And any of the potential hurts or highs, they'll feel that much more. But if one feels this balance is off, they may have already noped out. Next issue, we're gonna get some Thing in it. Will other people find out Jack is alive? They clearly will, because we've seen him hanging around the Fantastic Four. Wibbly wobbly comics are shipping at different times. Are you here for Soft Boy Jack? Curious about what's gonna happen? Or will somebody please punch something? Are you worried about Tony and Hellcat? Tell me things down below. While you're down there, please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking this time of your day spent discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.